Ladies and gentlemen, good morning, good morning, good morning, and good afternoon, depending on where you might be joining us from. My name is Nozipho Shabalala. It's an absolute privilege to be back with you once again and to serve you today as the moderator of this incredibly important conversation that we're having. We're gathered in a hybrid format, so I do want to first extend my greetings to those in the physical room in Abidjan. I'd like to extend greetings to those joining us from Geneva and other parts of the world, and greetings from myself here in Johannesburg, South Africa, and to all the participants as we come together to officially launch phase 2 of the ILO recruitment initiative for the period 2021 to 2025. Now, the launch of the FRI in Africa really reflects the fact that decent work for migrant workers and positive outcomes for migrant workers are a priority on the African continent, and that the recruitment stage in particular has a critical role to play in this regard. And so as we have today's conversations, I'd also like to remind you that we're using 2 hashtags that will really help us to amplify the conversation in many respects across social media platforms. We're using the hashtag fair recruitment, and we're using the hashtag labor migration. I'll say that again. We're using the hashtag fair recruitment, and we're using the hashtag labor migration. Now, I will be leading the conversation here online, but I do know my colleague Ida is in the room in Abidjan. And so I'm going to be leaning heavily on her to ensure that we are having an effective meeting, even though we're doing it in a hybrid format, and that all those that are in Abidjan are getting the best possible experience as well. So allow me just to share a few housekeeping rules that are going to help us to do that. For those in Abidjan, might I kindly request that you all keep your individual microphones muted, and this is to ensure that we don't have any spillover. For those also in Abidjan, if you have another device that is open in the room, kindly please make sure that that device is also muted at all times, unless of course you are contributing, in which case you would unmute your microphone. For those of us online, we keep to the same as online etiquette that we are now used to, and that is to kindly please keep your microphones muted unless of course you are participating. I would like to encourage you to keep your cameras on. We want to create the experience of being in one room. And so with your cameras on, and everybody in Abidjan can see you in the same way they can see each other, really allows us to create the experience of a singular room. I also would just like to say to our online participants, if you anticipate or experience any technical issues, please put it in the chat. The team is standing by to support you in the best way possible. My final housekeeping is to just remind everyone that we do have simultaneous interpretation in English and French. If you're online, please make sure that we are going to see that interpretation icon coming on, so that will allow you to follow. But also in the room, I know that we've got interpreters, and that you are required just to choose the right channel between channel 1 and 2 to make sure that you are able to follow the proceedings. Ladies and gentlemen, I am about to call on our Regional Director for Africa and Assistant Director General at the ILO. And so I'm going to kindly request, from what I can see, there are still some people on their feet in Abidjan, and I'm going to ask you all to please take your seats. We are officially starting off, and I do want to acknowledge those in the chat who are greeting all of us. So it is greetings to all of you in Morocco. Thank you very much for joining us, and I encourage you to let us know where you are so we know how wide this conversation is reaching everyone. Ladies and gentlemen, it's my absolute pleasure at this moment to give over the virtual floor to Madame Cynthia Samuel Olojuwon, our Assistant Director General and Regional Director for Africa from the International Labour Organization. Madame, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Madame Nozipho, our Program Director. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you are. Dear partners, the African Union Commission, the International Organization of Employers, the International Trade Union Confederation, our key partners, Excellencies, Ministers of Labor from Madagascar, Ethiopia, Kenya, Uganda, and Nigeria, and other representatives of ministers present, representatives of our national social partners, representatives of regional economic communities who are with us, both virtually and in person in Abidjan, our very dear and committed development partners, the Foreign Commonwealth and Development Office of the United Kingdom, FCDO, Sweden's Government Agency for Development Cooperation, SIDA, and the Swiss Development Corporation, SDC. Dear colleagues from the ILO, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I had really planned to be physically in Abidjan to welcome all of you as we launch this very, very important initiative. And a very important initiative in Africa, to be more specific. However, I'm in Geneva, and today, as you all know, is a historic day for us in the ILO, because this is the day that member states choose the next Director General of the ILO. The election is today. I would like to convey my appreciation and the appreciation of the entire organization to all the delegates and all the partner organizations who are present in Abidjan and those who are participating online. Your presence and active participation during the meeting of experts, which was held yesterday, shows your strong commitment not only to decent work, but more specifically to decent work for migrant workers. Your important deliberations during these 2 days of exchange will pave the way for consolidated and coordinated engagements to concretely address recruitment challenges at the continental level. This, as you all know, is part of our overall work on improving labor migration governance, which started strategically a couple of years ago in partnership with the African Union Commission, and which has continued, and I must say, has delivered very, very important and very, very strategic results. You have demonstrated through the conversations that have taken place already that progressive steps towards fair recruitment have been taken. But the challenges still lie ahead of us on the road towards the full implementation of the Fair Recruitment Initiative. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, this event today is historic for Africa. The importance of fair recruitment and collective action on this matter were endorsed globally through the Global Compact on Migration in 2018. Africa as a region contributed very actively and very visibly towards the UN negotiation process and has demonstrated its commitment towards the implementation of the Global Compact. Furthermore, the African Union Migration Policy Framework, which was also adopted in 2018, recognized the governance of labor migration, including the recruitment process, as fundamental to addressing the challenges posed by migration, but also enabling migrants' contributions towards development. Within the International Labour Organization, the promotion and protection of workers' rights, including the rights of migrant workers, is at the recruitment stage, have been on the ILO agenda for more than 100 years. Since then, constituents have adopted several standards to ensure that workers are protected during recruitment and placing, and ensuring that the labor market function is enhanced. Please recall, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, that in 2014, the ILO Director General, Mr. Guy Ryder, launched the Global Fair Recruitment Initiative to achieve 3 objectives. 1, to prevent human trafficking and forced labor. 2, to protect the rights of workers, including migrant workers, from abusive and fraudulent practices during the recruitment and placement process. And 3, to reduce the cost of labor migration to enhance development outcomes for the migrant workers and their families, as well as for the countries of origin and destination. 2 years later, in 2016, ILO tripartite constituents agreed on the general principles and operational guidelines for fair recruitment and its accompanying definitions of recruitment fees and costs. Together, this document constitutes the most up-to-date negotiated global guidance on the subject of fair recruitment. And we're delighted to see them being used and referenced by a wide range of countries and organizations globally. In 2018-2019, the Africa Regional Fair Recruitment Report, titled The Recruitment of Migrant Workers to, Within, and from Africa, was issued, demonstrating that various forms of unfairness in recruitment are widespread across Africa. The report emphasized that laws and policies and the enforcement of those laws and policies often fall short for ensuring fair recruitment of migrant workers to, within, and from Africa. The report also presents other key findings from country case studies on the recruitment of migrant workers in Africa and includes recommendations with a view of making recruitment fairer for all workers, including migrant workers. Then the COVID pandemic happened. And this pandemic continues to pose significant challenges to workers and their families, as well as to the recruitment process and the future of that industry. It has caused delays in recruitment, increased risk of financial insecurity and indebtedness due to job losses, as well as several other risks relating to abuse and business continuity challenges for the private recruitment agencies and so many others. How do we address these challenges? How do we make a difference to the lives of migrant workers and their families? What is the best way to professionalize the recruitment industry? The phase 2 of the Fair Recruitment Initiative from 2021 to 2025 provides concrete solutions for the way forward, emphasis being on concrete solutions, inclusive solutions, sustainable solutions. ILO research has found that workers' experience during the recruitment phase can shape the working conditions ahead. What does this mean? It simply means that the fairer the recruitment process, the higher the probability of decent work outcomes for the migrant worker, and the more efficient the process of the employers to hire the skills needed for their business. So it's a win-win situation for the workers and for the businesses. It's therefore critical that states take measures to prevent abusive and fraudulent recruitment practices from the outset. In doing so, it also is essential to take specific needs of women migrant workers into account. To make the recruitment of migrant workers fair, governments and social partners in the region need to mainstream fair recruitment into national policies that are developed through tripartite consultations and that ensure an enabling environment for fair recruitment by promoting full, productive, and freely chosen employment and decent work for all. The ILO's International Labour Standards and fair recruitment guidance provide the legal framework to support member states in achieving this goal. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I am very pleased and I'm also quite excited to inform you that the World Bank and the ILO are jointly supporting national statistical offices to measure recruitment costs incurred by workers in line with the SDG indicator 10.7.1. One example is Ghana, where the measurement of the recruitment cost shows shocking results, reporting excessive amounts paid by migrant workers along the recruitment process. Collecting data on recruitment costs is the first step towards identifying strategies to eliminate worker-paid recruitment costs and to ensure that workers do not commence their migration journey with huge debts that increase their vulnerability to forced labor. Trade unions play a key role by taking the lead in promoting a rights-based approach to labor migration, including through monitoring, advocating, capacity building, and policy influence. In the last decade, the private sector, including private employment agencies and their associations, buyers and brands, and trade unions, have actively promoted the principle of I quote, no fee charging of recruited workers, primarily in response to global and local calls for action against debt bondage, human trafficking, and forced labor. During the high-level panel, you will hear more about how the ILO and its tripartite constituents and partners have acted to ensure fair recruitment, while also responding to the threats that COVID-19 posed to the migrant workers, to the employers, and the recruitment industry. Your commitment and contribution to this meeting and the discussion ahead are very, very well appreciated. The FRI is a call to action to improve the recruitment of all workers, especially migrant workers. It's also a call to action to promote decent work opportunities. It's a call for us to really begin to systematically reap the benefits of regular migration, not only for development, but for regional integration of African economies and African people. I'm very pleased to see that more and more governments, businesses, and other international organizations are embracing this approach and multiplying efforts to accelerate progress. This forum today is a demonstration of such efforts, and we're proud, very proud to be part of this continental movement. I conclude, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, by congratulating the governments of Kenya and Tunisia, which represent Africa, the Fair Recruitment Advisory Committee of the ILO, together with the representatives of the governments of Bangladesh, Italy, Mexico, Qatar, the International Organization of Employers, the International Trade Union Confederation, the Swiss and the Swiss Development Corporation. These institutions and countries will share knowledge and expertise, identify common challenges and opportunities, and provide strategic guidance to the ILO in implementing the fair recruitment strategy for 2021-2025. Also, thank the African Union Commission, our constituents, the IOE, our key partner and constituent, and our key, they're the ones leading, as it were, and ITUC for this joint endeavor, as well as FCDO, SIDA, and the Swedish Development Corporation for their support. I wish you very fruitful discussions, and I thank you for your kind attention. Thank you very much.
The Assistant Director General and Regional Director for Africa. Madam, you might not hear it, but I can see it on my screen in Abidjan. Is a round of applause as you've really succinctly hit the big themes and the salient issues that we need to tackle in the conversation today. Just to bring to everybody's attention that the team has put a link to the strategy in the chat if you are online. And so the invitation there to engage with the strategy and to download it for yourself. But Audi, you've said many things, but one of the things that stands out for us is that the FRI is a call to action, and a call requires a response, and that is the invitation of this conversation. It's a call that allows us not only to meet our development aspirations, but also to achieve our regional integration aspirations as well. Thank you very much, RD. Now, ladies and gentlemen, we're also bringing into the room critical voices, and those are the voices of the donors who support and journeying along with us, enable us to execute against these strategic imperatives. And so I'd like to call on Madame Ulla Andren. She is the head of Regional Development Cooperation in Africa at the Embassy of Sweden, and today representing the Swedish International Development Cooperation Agency, the RD mentioned SIDA. And so we call on Madame Ulla to take to the floor as we listen into her comments at this moment. Madame, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Greetings from Addis Ababa. And thank you very much, Madam Cynthia, for the good initial speech. I would like to call upon the excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, in Abidjan, elsewhere on the African continent, and also outside Africa. First of all, I would like to thank the International Labour Organization, the African Union Commission, and the International Organization of Employers and the International Trade Union Confederation for organizing this important meeting to launch the second phase of the Fair Recruitment Initiative in Africa, and for the opportunity to address you on this very important day. Migrants, refugees, and internally displaced people or persons are vulnerable to violence, exploitation, and abuse. They are subjected to demands for bribes and sextortion to gain access to their most basic rights. Migrants are most vulnerable to exploitations in situations where the authority of the state and society are unable to protect them. This hinders the use of their full potential of migrants to access livelihoods and equal rights. For Sweden, migration is an important area of cooperation in Africa, and we believe that migration can create better opportunities and tools to enable poor and vulnerable people to improve their living conditions. We want to see a strengthened capacity to work towards a safe, orderly and regular migration and welcome this second phase of the Fair Recruitment Initiative. We believe this initiative fosters strong alliances with international and local partners to complement the Global Compact for Safe, Orderly and Regular Migration and the UN Sustainable Development Goals. Sweden remains strongly committed to support decent work and the protection of migrant workers, including by supporting projects and actions promoting fair recruitment principles, processes and practices. We hope to further strengthen our partnership in these areas and look forward to a continued successful collaboration with you. Many thanks to ILO, the African Union Commission, International Organization of Employers, and the International Trade Union Confederation for launching this Fair Recruitment Initiative, the second phase of it for Africa today. Thank you very much.
Lifting the significance of a collaborative posture amongst the different partners as we journey towards the execution of the strategy, not only lifting the sustainable development goals, but also speaking, of course, to the global compact on migration, which is also a shared aspiration in this conversation. Ladies and gentlemen, allow me to pull in another voice from our donor partners and allow me to invite Madame Laura Mattioli to take the virtual floor, who is with the Foreign Commonwealth and Development Office, or FCDO. Madame, I'd like to give you the floor as we listen into your comments at this moment.
Thank you so much, Madam Nosy. And I want to start by thanking ILO for inviting me today. I'm incredibly grateful to have the opportunity to contribute to this important event. So my distinguished colleagues here have already highlighted the importance of fair recruitment and particularly the relevance of this initiative. And I don't want to repeat what has been already said, but allow me to make a couple of reflections. One is about the role that fair recruitment plays to guarantee the migrants can harness and enjoy the benefit of migration and ensure that those benefits are shared fairly. The UK Foreign Commonwealth and Development Office recognize that regular, well-managed migration can deliver a range of positive development outcomes. But realizing that those benefits can be challenging, policy and approaches to managing migration are not always effective as we would like, an additional layer of challenges like unforeseen events such as COVID can really undermine those achievements. So too often, many migrants are forced to move in an unsafe ways that make them vulnerable or find themselves exploited. So through the Better Regional Migration Management Program implemented by ILO and IOM, UK is providing funding for better regional migration management in East Africa, with the aiming of making inter-regional migration more productive. Ensuring fair recruitment plays a key role in our program, and it plays a fundamental role to amplify the benefit of migration, making sure that migrants are protected from exploitation, are protected from abuses, and are able to move and work safely and productively. A second reflection is about the importance of coordination and sharing lessons learned. I believe that better coordination among practitioners, among ourselves, and promote exchange of good practices are two paramount elements to promote fair recruitment more effectively nationally and across borders. We have been working very hard with our partners, ILO and IAM, to make sure the better regional migration management program was taking in consideration the lessons learned from JLMP and sharing the lessons learned. These initiatives and these meetings are very good example of this collective effort. And I hope it will be the first of many others to come. We need to work more and more together to apply common principle, putting in place the right agreements and expertise to meet the scale of the challenge, to effectively protect migrants and making sure that fair recruitment is more easily achieved. So thank you so much for listening to me, and over to you, Madam Nuzi. Thank you.
And again, as you're taking me back to the words of the regional director when she says the FRI is a call to action, and you've just given it more nuance. It's a call to action for better coordination, to share lessons more systematically and consistently, but also to meet the scale of the challenge. And that's really encouraging to hear that. Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, that concludes our opening remarks for the time that we have today. I'm going to transition us now into a high-level panel discussion where we have voices from both the physical environment in Abidjan, but also online from different parts of the world. And so I'm going to invite those who are online and joining us in this panel discussion to kindly please pop their cameras on so that, and keep them on if you can, so that we can really create the experience of being in one room. Madame Michelle Layton is with us today. If I can ask her to turn her camera on. I think she was with us in a second, so I'm sure she'll be coming back on shortly. She is the chief of the labor migration branch at the ILO, and she's participating in this conversation. Mr. Sabelo Mbogazi. Mr. Mbogazi, I believe that you are with us in Abidjan. And he, of course, is the head of division, labor, employment and migration, health, humanitarian affairs, and the social development department. And if I can just ask my technical team to pan so we can at least get a zoom in to Mr. Mbogazi as we introduce him and see him in the room. Also joining us, of course, is Mr. Joel Odigier, who is the Deputy General Secretary of the ITUC Africa. That, of course, is the International Trade Union Confederation, joining us today. Thank you very much, sir. Madame Stephanie Vinet is with us. She's online, her camera's on, giving us a wave. She is, of course, the head of stakeholder engagement at the International Organization of Employers, or the IOE, and we look forward to her perspectives from an employers and business. We also have the honorable ministers with us in the room, the Honorable Minister of Labor in Madagascar, that's Madame Giselle Ranampi. Madame, thank you very much for being with us, and a big welcome to you. We're looking forward to listening into the Madagascan experience. And of course, we also have the Honorable State Minister of Labor from Ethiopia, Honorable Nigisu Gebremmanuel. We see you, sir. Thank you very much. And a big welcome to you from all of us today. Ladies and gentlemen, that concludes all of the people that are participating in the panel. I'm going to kick off our conversation. I see that Madame Mattioli is not yet. Oh, she is with us. Thank you very much. Madame Layton, let me come to you first in the conversation. In this panel, we're really wanting to look at fair recruitment as a pillar, as a driver, as a motivator of inclusive recovery in Africa. That really is our context and our frame. And so I want to put to you two broad questions. The first question is, what are your thoughts on progress made in the last few years? And of course, to bring in the recent crisis into the conversation and ask you, how has this crisis impacted that progress to date?
Thanks so much, Nosy. And let me just start by saying how delighted I am to see that there are so many joining from so many different regions parts of Africa today for the launch of the Fair Recruitment Initiative's new phase in Africa. And I would like to thank the EU, CETA, FCDO, SDC for their continued support for this really important initiative. I think ILO has been quite pleased to see the significant progress over the last 5 years on fair recruitment. This is, I think, been tremendous in so many regions, and the awareness has really grown. It's gained attention by policymakers and stakeholders. In a study, we found that more than 90 countries prohibit or regulate in some way recruitment fees and costs for workers. Not all consistently, but that is a good start. And as stated by the regional director, the ILO Fair Recruitment Guidelines have become the most authoritative guidance in this area. And as such, they're included in the Global Compact on Migration. ILO is also supporting with technical work on recruitment reforms in over 30 countries. And this involves policy, work, training, capacity building, helping put in place enforcement mechanisms like labor inspection, and fostering social dialogue. We also know the trade unions are really helping to empower and protect migrant workers, and businesses are working together to help professionalize the recruitment industry in many countries. I want to say just a couple of words about our work in Africa, because that's been really important work with our constituents. The African Migration Policy Framework calls for action on fair recruitment now, including through bilateral labor migration agreements. Tunisia has adopted a new recruitment law, and it's establishing a directorate to monitor recruitment agencies. Trade unions have expanded ITUC's migrant recruitment advisor in Kenya and Ghana, for example. Madagascar ratified key ILO conventions on migrant workers and recruitment, including Convention 97, 143, and 181, and it's leading to comprehensive legislation. And I can mention that in Nigeria and Ethiopia, the recruitment agency associations have now adopted codes of conduct aligned with ILO standards. So the progress has certainly been good, but we have to recognize that there is a lot more that needs to be done, and certainly across many more countries in Africa. The pandemic exposed the significant weaknesses that still exist in labor migration governance. There are still too many workers, including migrant workers, who remain in the informal economy and at risk. Businesses were disrupted in large scale. Recruitment agencies were shuttered as borders closed. But we know businesses are key to successful recovery, and they should be engaged in the solutions. We witnessed too many migrant workers, including women and domestic workers, who were left stranded with high debt burdens from recruitment processes that basically left them without protection or proper contracts. ILO helped many, for example, returning Ethiopian women, migrant domestic workers, who needed basic services, job counseling, and help to reintegrate into labor markets. And our assessment showed that many workers in the IGAD region who were employed in Gulf states were not even paid or were forced to sign contracts for lower wages and fewer protections. So as countries seek to recover from the crisis, I would say that governments in Africa and elsewhere really have an opportunity to do much more to eliminate these recruitment abuses. And I'll end by saying that we really want to see cultivation of a positive recruitment set of mechanisms and positive recruitment processes, migration pathways that are fair, that are rights-based, and responsive to real labor market needs. So let me stop there.
Madam, thank you very much. And what you've painted is a complex picture, because it shows that although there is progress, and you've mentioned some countries, Tunisia, Madagascar, Nigeria, Ethiopia, there's still the opportunity that is yet to be seized to really, as we focus on recovery, to make recruitment a part of that recovery and an enabler of that recovery. And so we look forward to engaging more with you on that front. I want to maybe take the same question, ladies and gentlemen, to Abidjan as I go to Mr. Mbogazi with the next question. Mr. Mbogazi, the question remains the same. In your view, how have we been progressing in the last few years, especially in leveraging fair recruitment in Africa? for development outcomes, for regional integration, and then to give you the opportunity to pull the crisis into the conversation and talk to us a little bit about the impact that the crisis has had.
Thank you very much, Nosip, and thank you, Madam Moderator. South Africa is Africa, rather. Why now I'm talking about my country? African Union has progressed in terms of establishing and in terms of coming up with frameworks that is going to guide the area of labor migration and migration in general, so that our people, even if as they move and looking for jobs within Africa, they can move safely in a dignified way, but in a regular manner. Our statistics shows that while there is migration or labor migration or movement of people to other continents, but most of the migrants, most of the job seekers are moving within the continent. And that's a percentage of 80%. Only 20% would go abroad, whether regularly or in an irregular manner. And therefore, there is quite a number of frameworks within which member states are expected to operate to come up with their national migration or labor migration governance regulations. I can mention, and it has been mentioned several times this morning, the migration policy framework, which sets out and outlines a number of priority areas in governing labor migration and migration in general. But also, we are the African Union member states are also signatories and are part of the endorsement of the global, the GCM, the Global Compact on Migration, which also promotes fair recruitment. You are aware, Madam Moderator, ladies and gentlemen, and distinguished colleagues, that AU also has established, together with partners, a program that is called Joint Labor Migration Program, where ILO is an implementing partner, IOM is an implementing partner, and also ECA. Within this program, we are working with member states and all the partners to develop the guidelines, because we believe that the guidelines will provide harmonization of labor migration policies across the continent. One of the guidelines that we've developed, and we are going to take it to a ministerial for approval, it's bilateral guidelines on bilateral labor agreements, so that we can build the capacity of the AU member states to be able to negotiate with countries of destination the labor agreements. But also, we have developed a model migration welfare program, which will then be an inspiration at a member state level when they are developing programs on welfare programs. Yesterday, we talked a lot about the security and the welfare of the migrants, also in the context of recruitment. Another guideline is a guideline on the establishment of integrated labor migration information systems. This also it's very important, because we want to drive our policies and responses with evidence. And we think that the guidelines will provide capacity on member states, so that member states can be able to develop an integrated labor migration information systems that will allow them to respond effectively to issues of unfair recruitment. Other than that, the moderator, the issue of labor migration and migration in general is a global phenomenon, and it requires all the stakeholders to come together. How do we do this? We have come up with frameworks, but we have also come up with platforms. The African Union biannually brings together, convince the ministers responsible for social development and labor and employment. These ministers are the ones who are then looking at the progress that we are making in the area of decent work, in the area of labor migration, and be able to provide guidance which will help to harmonize the policies in Africa, but also provide integrated approaches in Africa. Madam Moderator, the other platform that we use is Pan-African Forum for Migration, which brings together all the actors in the area of migration and development, labor migration, and decent work, where then there's strategic discussions on how to deal with issues of labor migration, but also issues of decent work. Madam Moderator, I also want to remind us and to remind this House that Africa, in terms of labor migration, currently, in terms of the statistics, Africa is a sending continent. So we see our people moving to the GCC countries. We see our people moving to European countries. But what is it that we are doing to be able to partner with these continents? We have what we refer to as C2C, continent to continent. There's AU-EU dialogue for migration and mobility, where we are able to share experiences with EU and be able to shape and to emphasize the policies that pertain to legal pathways, but also the policies like labor migration, so that our people can have that decent work, but also so that our people and the destination countries can always be reminded of the importance of the protection of labor migrants. The last one, Moderator, is the work that you are doing with AU and Arab countries, where we are focusing also on shaping policies, and we're using these guidelines to be able to provide harmonization of policies, and all of this with the aim of the protection of the labor and migrant workers that are crossing the seas and that are moving to other regions. I'll stop here and thank you, Madam Moderator.
Mr. Mbagazi, thank you very much. And I think what you've also given us is a little bit of a insight into the conversation that we're going to be having a little bit later. But you've lifted the different modalities through which this strategy and aspiration of safe, dignified, and regular movement of migrant workers is taking place, and really speaking to all shoulders to the wheel and a whole of society approach to getting this right. So let me maybe go to the Deputy General Secretary of the ITUC in Africa, who I believe is also in Abidjan with us, Mr. Joel Odigie. Sir, I want to bring in the trade union perspective into this conversation and allow you maybe to speak to us briefly about what do you see as the key challenges faced by migrant workers, especially at the recruitment stage, and what are the solutions that trade unions are putting forward? I'm in essence also trying to get to the role that trade unions are or could be playing in promoting fair recruitment. Over to you, please, Mr. Odigie.
Thank you very much, Comrade Moderator. In terms of the challenges at the recruitment level, I would say there are quite a number, though I share the sentiment of Comrade Layton in terms of progress that have been made. And so I would rather want to see a bit of my intervention as the glass half full than half empty. And so the challenges first for us as trade union is the challenge of the weak application of the decent work agenda. In general, unemployment is still huge on our continent. And so when you have a huge unemployment situation, the desperation to want to move, even when the conditions are not good, will be there. And so the idea of creating jobs locally first to give, to make labor migration a choice approach would be something we will appreciate, which feels that the fact that it's not there represent the problem. The second challenge is the poor recruitment climate regulation in terms of how we regulate the employment of migrant workers is still not robust enough. And these allow migrants to fall into the trap of unscrupulous recruitment agencies and agents. And I would think if we work together, we can improve this. There is still exorbitant price costs. There are still irregular costs migrants are being forced to pay in some cases. And Madam Cynthia earlier in our opening session alluded to one of the situations in Ghana where the migrants are, charge exorbitant fees. We need to get away from that approach, and this really undermine migrant workers. There's a problem of ignorance too. The information in terms of how people should move is still not sufficiently available. They are limited, they are vague knowledge of how people move. And like I said earlier, when you have desperation, you have ignorance, those represent a bad cocktail of how things can really get bad for migrant workers. There's also the problem of irregular and inconsistent contract of work. We still find migrant workers who complain that the contract they sign at the recruitment stage, when they get to destination country, is different from what they see. So the problem of how we really deal with irregular contract is something we think we should still work on. The legal framework, which is another challenge, is too largely inconsistent and weak. Our experience has shown that for Africa, bilateral labor migration agreement tends to represent the facilitator of labor migration on our continent. And what we see from the bilateral labor migration agreement is that it is supply driven. It is demand driven. In other words, the countries that are demanding for our labor migrants are the ones that develop the BLMAs and tell us from the supply side to sign. I think we need to meet ourselves in the middle of the road to deal with this, because when we trade our migrants for quote and unquote jobs, then the realities are those things we suffer. And we had a discussion yesterday here that problem is really because the labor migration market is infused with competition, where humans are now traded in a sense as commodity. And so African governments, even among themselves, wants to show that they can give more flexible arrangement to attract BLMAs for their nationals to go abroad. And that leads to the race to the bottom. I think we can reverse that trend. But on the positive side, because that's where I started. So what is it that we trade unions are doing? First, we ascribe to, we appreciate, we like what we see with the Fair Recruitment Principles and Guidelines, Fair Recruitment Principles and Guidelines, and we called for duty bearers, because if you look at the Fair Recruitment Principles and Guidelines, it talked about, it gives specific rules for government and employers. And then, of course, why it is silent on trade union does not mean trade unions don't have a role to play. It means that as trade unions do not direct duty bearers in that sense, should be able to call government to use these two effectively. And we have been doing so. At the national level, across, we have been engaging with state actors. I give example in Nigeria, the trade unions together with the various groups, the Ministry of Labor, Internal Affairs, Immigration, and all have been coming together to have a kind of common arrangement that will defeat these infractions that migrant workers are facing. It's similarly in Kenya, when it was reported that abuses of migrant workers were leading to deaths, migrants were coming home in coffins, the trade union rose to the occasion, protested, and called on the government to say, no, let's reform this. And it led to a ban in the situation in Kenya. And then over time, you had the reform that today Kenya gradually is beginning to be seen and celebrated as a country that is also caring more and more for its migrants. Again, is the question, as ITUC Africa, with the support of the ILO, we developed a migrant recruitment advisor, MRE. This recruitment advisor is a technology tool intended to help migrant workers to know ethical recruitment agencies, which one I should go to, which one I should avoid. And where you had trade unions also calling on the government to reform recruitment practices, because Ghanaians have also suffered largely. The Trade Union Congress of Ghana has now developed a migrant recruitment advisor, which it will be launching in April in Ghana. And so we are seeing more and more of trade union engagement in trying to use technology to address these issues. We are campaigning, and we will continue to campaign. We are campaigning for ratification, application, and enforcement of relevant international standards. Our first line of campaign, which speaks to the point of Comrade Sabelo, the African Union representative on integration, is for the ratification of the protocol, the treaty establishing regional, the right word to it, the so-called free movement protocol in Africa that gives the right to movement, right to residence, and right to establishment. That treaty is still, the ratification is still weak on the African continent. I think about 4 or thereabout African member states have ratified. This is not good enough. We are saying we need more of these ratification, but more also for standard bearing ratifications as well. ILO Convention 97, 143, Convention 181, Convention 189, and Convention 190. The last 2 conventions, very important, because what we have seen is that when we talk about these challenges we are highlighted, women migrants suffer them more. And then more of women migrants are so-called hidden migrants, because domestic workers are largely the veiled migrants, the one you don't see every day, but they suffer these right issues more. And so we are saying Convention 189, decent work for domestic workers, Convention 190, violence and harassment at workplaces, should be ratified, should be applied, and should be domesticated. In Africa, we are seeing good ratifications of these conventions, and we are happy. And I will stop on the last note, migrant. As we speak today, 4, 5, 6 years down the line of this campaign, Qatar is seen as a model in terms of reforms. The kafala system is sufficiently reformed. We are satisfied what we see in Qatar. No exit permits, no permission to change employers. Minimum wage have been improved. health and safety conditions have been installed. And then gradually we are working in Qatar towards freedom of association for migrants. This is steady progress. And we think Qatar could also be encouraged. So in terms of what we have done, these are it, and some of a bit of it, but if the opportunity come, especially when we look at our own cooperation, partnership with trade unions from countries of origins and trade unions of destination. We are speaking to unions in the Arab states. We are together as trade unions from Africa here. How do we do this together? And we are beginning to see traction in our cooperation arrangement. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mr. Joel. And I think the invitation was really to have authentic conversation. And I think that's exactly what you've done. You've lifted a number of those issues. And I've been a bit lenient with the time, because I do think in these first round of questions, a lot of the salient issues need to be put onto the table. I am hoping that we might get to a second round of much more concise, short, sharp responses. But thank you for that. Lifting the complexities with the BLMAs, the contracting, the regulation, the unavailability of information, and of course, that the source of the challenge, which you say sits at unemployment within different markets, which makes migration not a choice, but something that reduces the power of migrant workers who then have no choice but to leave. Of course, you've spoken about the hidden migrants again, which is a running theme that we've been picking up. But your positive note on Qatar and pointing us to a best practice that we need to consider in this conversation. So let me go to Madame Stephanie Vinette now, who's representing the IOE. And Stephanie, we want to bring in the voice and the perspective of our employers in this regard. Firstly, why is fair recruitment in particular important to employers, specifically in the context of Africa? If you can comment on that. But also what we're keen to hear from you is what are employer organizations actually doing to promote fair recruitment worldwide, but of course on the continent as well? Over to you.
Merci Nozipo et merci à l'OIT de
thank you very much to the ILO. Thank you, Nozi. Just speak on the behalf of the 150 members of my organization, and I welcome all, and I greet you from Geneva and all the African countries represented. Mrs. Mugo wanted to be here, but as you know, we have the election of the General Director of the ILO here in Geneva, and so some of our leaders are busy this morning.
Why it's important for employers, why fair recruitment is important for employers. And let me highlight the business case for fair recruitment and why the global business community believes fair recruitment is needed. And why the global business community has called for regulatory frameworks that are conducive to responsible recruitment globally, but also on the African continent. We may recall that every year, over 54 million of people gain access to formal and quality work via the various services offered by organized private employment agencies. And these services are key to employers, to labor market functioning, and are key to workers around the world. And when those services are regulated appropriately, private employment and recruitment services improve labor market functioning by matching job seekers to a decent job inside and across borders. And responsible recruitment provides new and sustainable job opportunities to a very diverse workforce. It creates more decent and productive work, and it enhances fair and transparent business practices, all of which ultimately contribute to economic growth. And we have to think that the recruitment process is very costly for any company. Finding the right person to fill an open position takes time and resources. And in this sense, it's in the interest of employers to find the right skills in the shortest amount of time in a less costly way. So there's a clear interest from the employer side, and not only from the corporate social responsibility side or on the reputation perspective, but really from a business, labor market, economic and human resource perspective. So we have long been argued that the appropriate and effective national regulations that promote responsible recruitment practices will serve to, one, protect the most vulnerable migrant workers and job seekers, and two, create a level playing field for the recruitment industry. We heard this morning already about informal economies and about workers being trapped into all types of things. We need to make sure that the recruitment industry is regulated and the regulations are enforced to make sure that we avoid all those situations. And we've been taking a clear position to fight the charging of recruitment fees to job seekers and workers, including migrant workers. And this we have been doing also through our participation in the definition of the recruitment fees and related costs that was agreed by the ILO in 2018. So those are progresses and developments that we very much welcome. So what are we doing to promote fair recruitment? And very specifically in Africa, we've published a guide for employers in Africa on labor migration, which includes a full module on fair recruitment. This guide should help ultimately the employers' organizations to talk to their governments, to advocate for policies that are conducive to responsible recruitment. We're also currently hosting a series of workshops for employers in Africa on migration-related issues. And of course, cross-border recruitment is one of the topics addressed. We're looking at recruitment as one of the components of the migration way. We need to look at legal pathways to get people to work in a legal manner through regular channels for them to be able to integrate the formal economy as much as possible. We hope that by having regulations that are conducive to a regular migration, fair recruitment, we will be able to transition from the informal to the formal economy. The final objective we have, at least in the medium term, short term, is to agree on an African Employer Declaration on migration governance that we have pledged to submit at the upcoming International Migration Review Forum, which would contribute thereby to the Global Compact for Migration Objective 6 on recruitment. Now, my last point, Nozipo, about African context as well, is that we're talking about free movement protocols, and in the context where Africa has adopted the AFCFTA, a framework which aims to ensure the free movement of goods and services, hence to foster economic development, employment creation, it's essential that fair recruitment be at the heart of the priorities. And the employment opportunities that will be created by the AFCFTA must be accessible in fair condition. We heard some reactions about bilateral agreements. I can comment further maybe in your second round, but my first reaction to that is that there are good bilateral agreements that are being adopted. However, we need to look at the need of employers in Africa. And there is high unemployment rates, we know that, but there's also a lot of employers struggling to find the right skills in Africa. So we need to look at national policies in African countries to cater for jobs in Africa first. Thanks, Nozipo.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Stephanie. And I think the last point on the African Continental Free Trade Area is such a pertinent one because, as you say, the employment opportunities will mean nothing if they cannot be accessed and sits at the core of the regional integration aspiration that the regional director spoke about. And of course, you spoke about a lot of initiatives from the guide to the workshops to doing the work of creating those legal pathways that speaks to what employers are doing. But starting us off with a very clear narrative around the business case. And so I really think some really strong contributions coming through there. I want to go back to the room and I want to go back to Abidjan right now as we listen into the voices of our government representatives. I want to go to Minister Renampi from Madagascar. Minister, thank you very much. The question to you, Minister, is from a government perspective, what governance frameworks are put in place in your country to promote fair recruitment practices and the protection of migrant workers, Minister?
Merci de m'avoir donné la parole.
Thank you very much for giving me the floor. You know, the government of Madagascar is aware of the relevance of migrant workers, and that they represent a driving engine for the development of the country. We are also aware that the irregular situation of migrant workers facilitates the vulnerability of workers willing to work abroad, but they may subject to exploitation and abuses of their rights, and may also on their physical integrity. They are also subjected to sexual exploitation. With this regard, we would like to focus the attention not only on the legal texts, but also on the policies and the legislations. So the government of Madagascar, first of all, in its general policy of the state, has included decent work for all, and this also is one of the pillars of the initiative of emergency for Madagascar, supported by the President of our Republic. So we also have the PPTD, or the Decent Work Country Program for the country, which is being launched between the government of Madagascar and the ILO. And this program, Decent Work Country Program, takes into account the principles and the values and the declaration of the ILO on the principles and fundamental principles and rights at work of workers, and on social justice for the fair globalization. Among other things, we have the commitment that Madagascar made to be the pioneer country for Agency 8 for the goal 8.7. We have also the ratification in 2019 of 3 conventions. Convention 143 on migrant workers, Convention 189 on domestic workers, Convention 181 on private agency, and Convention on 29 on forced workers. And we also had the reform of the labor code, which is being now adopted in our parliament, so that we can ensure that all of these standards and provisions contained in ratified conventions are adopted and taken and domesticated in the national law, as well as the labor code. At the same time, with the legal framework, we are currently focusing on disseminating information, disseminating reliable information through focal points for fair recruitment. Focal points consist of representatives of workers and employers and members of civil society, in order to respect the tripartism approach with regard to labor. We have even an interministerial committee for the follow-up and on migration and on recruitment, in order to follow up everything that is being done during migration, and especially with regard to labor migration. So this is what the government of Madagascar is doing. So we are focusing on the legal framework and on raising the awareness in order to make sure that laws and provisions are complied with, and that the legal framework is complied with for the good of migrant workers. Because as you know, we have migrant workers, for the most part, are women, and they are often victims of certain situations, and despite their will, these migrant workers work in countries that where the fundamental rights of workers and women are not complied with. And so sometimes we have encountered the problems of imprisonment, of inhumane treatments, which are noted in countries that recruited these women. So the government is really committed, and the President of the Republic is personally engaged to the repatriation of these women who are the victim of these abuses. Thank you very much for giving me the floor and allowing me to speak about the legal framework that is being developed in my country, Madagascar. Thank you very much.
So we're moving, ladies and gentlemen, from Madagascar to Ethiopia. Minister Ranampi really lifting some of those policy and legislative insights, and in particular, very interesting how the Interministerial Committee allows allows accountability or pulls in accountability against progress and promises made from a policy perspective. So let's go to Honorable Gabriel Manuel. And to you, Minister, to put the question, it's very same question as we did to Madagascar. What governance frameworks are in place in your country to promote fair recruitment practices and the protection of migrant workers?
Thank you so much. My name is Ngusu Talahun. I am State Minister in the Ministry of Labor and Skills. For recruitment issues with regard to Ethiopia, fair recruitment is central to the protection of migrant workers, especially for those in vulnerable situations such as low-skilled workers, particularly in women in rural areas who have low economic status. So having ratified the Convention 181 in 1999, the government of Ethiopia has adopted and continuously strengthens its policies to safeguard the rights of migrant workers in Ethiopia. We have long history in this regard of regulating private employment agencies, beginning in 1998 with the Private Employment Agency Proclamation 104, which regulated the operations of the private employment agencies for local and overseas employment, of course. The proclamation is defined as private employment agencies as any person independent of government bodies which performs employment services without directly or indirectly receiving payments from the workers. Proclamation 104 was repealed then in 2009 and replaced by the Employment Exchange Service Proclamation 632 2009, with the aim of defining the role of public employment services and private employment agencies in employment exchange and further strengthening the mechanism for monitoring and regulating domestic and overseas employment exchange services in line with provisions of Convention 181. During the proclamation of this, the implementation of this proclamation, the government of Ethiopia has realized that there were major gaps in protection of rights of Ethiopian migrant workers. So to fill this gap and further amplify the protection of rights of Ethiopian migrant workers, my government has adopted the Ethiopian Overseas Employment Proclamation 923 2016. This proclamation contained articles to better regulate private employment agencies and focused on the protection of Ethiopian migrant workers, especially low-skilled workers in the caregiving sector, including no recruitment fee. In 2020, the Prevention and Suppression of Trafficking in Persons and Smuggling of Migrants Proclamation of 2015 was repealed and then replaced by the Proclamation 1178/2020, as it was felt the predecessor lacked clarity, lack of inconsistency with other laws, and did not provide adequate responses to the challenge being faced at the time. Finally, last year in 2021, the government of Ethiopia adopted the Ethiopia's Overseas Employment, which is amendment, of course, Proclamation number 1246/2021, to diversify the occupations and countries of destination in which Ethiopian government migrants are employed in. So my country has also signed bilateral agreements and memorandum of understandings on labor migration with major labor receiving countries like the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, United Arab Emirates, Qatar, and Jordan to promote fair recruitment practices. All bilateral agreements signed by Ethiopian clearly stipulate that no recruitment fee can be charged for domestic worker. Let me conclude by emphasizing the need to regularly review and strengthen national frameworks in consultation with relevant stakeholders, including employers and workers, to address the entire spectrum of recruitment practices. So this is what has been done in Ethiopia, and the reality with regard to the fair recruitment practices. Thank you so much.
Honorable Minister, thank you very much for a concise response, but also really giving us at the same time a meaningful insight into what has taken place in Ethiopia. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to begin to wrap up this conversation, but I want to wrap it up in an interesting way. Having listened to all of the interventions, I think we can all agree that there is a lot that needs to be done. I'm reminded of some of the interventions from Mr. Joel Odigie, speaking to some of the realities that migrant workers still are confronted with on the ground. And so as we wrap the conversation, I want us to think about what are the priorities that we need to think about in the context of the Fair Recruitment Initiative for the Africa region. What are the priorities that are going to give us momentum, allow us to accelerate and move the agenda forward? But this time, I'm not asking for a long response. I'm literally asking you for 3 priorities in 3 words. So that's the trick. 3 priorities in 3 words. And let's see how succinct we can get on around this. Michelle, you're smiling, so I'm thinking you're rising to the challenge. So I'm going to go to you first and ask you, what are the 3 priorities that you think we need to be focusing on?
Well, thanks so much, Nosy. I'm not sure I can give you just 3 words, but I certainly can repeat the call to action of our regional director, and that is to encourage every country in Africa to take up the call for fair recruitment, create fair recruitment migration corridors, and eliminate abuses. Those are 3. And I can say that while we've mentioned that we work in 30 countries globally, why not 30 countries in Africa? We have the tools, we have the guidance. Countries have discussed in some way that they may, or I heard IOE indicate that they may pledge at the IMRF coming up. I hope countries will pledge their commitment to fair recruitment at that International Migration Review Forum coming up in May. We're there to support you, and we're ready partners. And I'll stop there. Thanks.
You know, it's an excellent one. Perhaps 3 phrases and not 3 words. Let's see if anybody does one better. But 1, take up the call. 2, it is about making sure that we're really focusing on those labor migration corridors, and that we're focusing on the abuses as well. So lifting up the rocks, seeing what's underneath, and responding appropriately through our regulatory efforts, through our monitoring efforts. And so that call to action is loud and clear. I was watching Stephanie's face as you were responding. I see a little bit of nervousness to see if she's going to be able to do as good a job as you've done. But let me go to Abidjan first. before I come back. And Mr. Joel, you gave a very heartfelt first contribution. I wonder if you can do the same in 3 words now, as I bring the same question to you. What are your 3 priorities? I want to go to Mr. Joel Odigie and not Mr. Mbogazi right now. I can see he's already in the frame, but let me go to Joel Odigie. So 3 priorities, what would you say?
Thank you. Work on employability, and that is skills and capacity development. 2, the development of an African labor migration process, similar to the Columbus. 3, in a better insertion of social dialogue and tripartism in labor migration governance, which we are talking about reviewing the Abu Dhabi dialogue and getting something else. If you ask me for a 4th one, which is a strong one also, social protection, portability, and expansion. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Odigie. That's a very clever way of getting something in. If you ask me for a 4th one and then gives me the 4th one, but that is excellent. Social protection, portability, social dialogue, and tripartism at the center of the labor migration dialogues. And of course, you've spoken about employability and an African labor migration process. Thank you very much. Let me go back online. Let me go to Geneva. Let me go to Stephanie. Stephanie, I'm asking you for your 3 priorities. What do we need to focus on?
Sure. I have 4 priorities, 4 sentences, if you allow, Nozi.
Yeah.
One is really for this new strategy to support governance in crafting policies and recruitment frameworks that promote and are conducive to fair recruitment. And this is pillar 2 of the strategy. So it's nothing new. It's just applying the strategy. 2 is building trust. There's not enough trust in the industry. And this we can do by accompanying small and medium-sized enterprises through the National Employers Federations in Africa. And digitalization here can help. And 3, bring employers, workers' organizations in the negotiations of bilateral labor migration agreements. We need them on board, and governments will benefit from their expertise to craft agreements that are useful for all parties. And 4, what the strategy could also look at is a skills anticipation mapping, where we would identify skills that are lacking in which industries in specific countries, and knowing where the gaps are could help skills matching and smooth the recruitment processes. So we're looking forward to the 5 next years. We have 5 years. In 5 years' time, we're coming back with success and results to celebrate, I hope.
Certainly 5 years with success and results to celebrate, but 4 really strong phrases. Let's support government in their policy formulation process and capacity to do that. Build trust, make sure that the employers are in the room, and of course, the potential of looking at skills anticipation mapping and really letting the data set us free and give us direction. Stephanie, thank you very, very much. I'm going back to Abidjan. I'm going to Mr. Mbogazi now. Mr. Mbogazi, I believe I was very, very lenient when we started to give you as much time as you needed to land. But I think, let me come to you now with the same question that I've put to everybody else. What are the 3 priorities that you believe we need to focus on? If you can get it into 3 words, great. 3 phrases, I'll still accept.
Thank you, Madam Moderator. Africa aspires to be an integrated continent. We can be integrated if we increase ratification. For instance, ratification of protocol on free movement, ratification of all the frameworks that we've put in place. All the frameworks are adequate now. So we need ratification, implementation, and enforcement. But also, number 2, we need to improve the protection of migrant workers and the workers in general, improve the regulations in the job market. We aspire also to be a sustainable and driven by inclusive approaches in Africa, and therefore this is what even in the issue of fair recruitment we need to strive for. Sustainable programs, but also inclusive and include even domestic workers. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mbokazi. An integrated continent made possible by ratification, implementation, and enforcement. Second point being to improve the protection of workers and the regulation of the job market. And the third point is let's not lose sight of the sustainability of our actions. Thank you very much, Mr. Mbokazi. And so I'm going to round it off by calling on our two ministers to also give me their 3 words in terms of their priorities. I want to go to Minister Ranampi first from Madagascar. Minister, what are the 3 things that you think we need to be focusing on to make progress at a faster rate?
Merci encore, Madame la modératrice, de m'avoir donné la parole.
Thank you, moderator, for having given me the floor. In order to make our agenda make some progress, the Madagascar country thinks in, first of all, strengthen bilateral cooperation and multilateral cooperation in order, in fact, to have our agenda be better disseminated. So priorities already defined, first of all, strengthening of public and private actors, awareness, and awareness also in terms of migrant workers being able to get to know the whys and hows and everything concerning their recruitment. We already have specific training centers in order to disseminate their rights. Adoption, implementation of the laws, national strategies as well that are sensitive to gender, to protect workers, men and women, all along their recruitment process. And also, we will continue and work on bilateral agreements in line with the ILO's principles and rules. We already started such negotiations, such discussions with the countries involved, and also social and professional reintroduction of migrants going back to their countries of origin, and of course a better detailing on what is the meaning of workers migration. Thank you very much. I thank the ILO and invite them to continue along this path. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mrs. Minister. So 3 phases, 3 words. That was a very clear-cut set of directions
to make faster progress. Minister Gabriel Manuel, let's close it off with you, sir. What are the 3 very quick things that you think we need to focus on within the context, of course, of the Fair Recruitment Initiative and the strategy that we're launching today?
Thanks so much. As to us, strengthening policy and labor market information system in consultation with social partners and pursuing their full enforcement for an improved recruitment industry is 1. Second is tabling innovative recruitment enforcement tools and devising remedy strategies for an improved response on violations. Third is ensuring active involvement of workers and employers, organizations in recruitment related dialogue. Fourth, probably can be added is enhancing the skills of our African labor migrants to be competitive in the international market. Thank you so much.
Tools, bringing workers and employers into the room, but also enhancing the skills of the workers themselves, so they too are more competitive in the market. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to just pause to say a very big thank you to our panelists for really leaning into the conversation. As you would have noticed, we created time so that they could really go into depth in their first round of questions, but they've upped the tempo by telling us what the call to action really is about and what are the things that we need to be focusing on if we're really going to move the agenda forward through the ILO Fair Recruitment Initiative. So a very big thank you to you all as we wrap up that panel discussion. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to take a bit of a health break now, but we're going to do it in an interesting way. Those in Abidjan in the room, it is 12:33 on my watch. We're going to invite you to take a leg stretch and a health break and require that you are back with us and at the top of the hour. So in South Africa, that would mean we are taking a health break until 11. If you are in Abidjan, that is a health break And my apologies. If you're in South Africa, it's a health break until 1. If you're in Abidjan, it is a health break until 11. So you are more than invited, more than welcome to take a leg stretch. For those of us online, we're going to take a moment now to do a very quick overview of the Knowledge Hub and to introduce the Knowledge Hub through a quick video. We're going to invite 2 speakers whose cameras are on right now, Maria Galotti, who is a labor migration specialist, as well as Melanie Belfiore, who's a labor migrant officer at the ILO. They're both from the ILO, and they're going to introduce the Knowledge Hub to us. If you're in the room in Abidjan, please do not worry. We're going to repeat this for you a little bit later on in the afternoon. But for now, I know that Maria and Melanie have a short video to show us, and then we'll take some questions. Please go ahead.
Thank you very much, Nosy, and thanks for inviting us to present to you the Knowledge Hub. So I'd just like to make a short introduction before we join a video. Over the last few years, we've implemented, as you heard, the Fair Recruitment Initiative of the ILO, and we have accumulated immense knowledge and developed tools together with our partners and through our experience in a number of countries across the globe. And over the last couple of years, we started to organize events and share that knowledge under the umbrella of the Fair Recruitment Initiative Knowledge Hub. But today I'm very happy that we have a new tool that we would like to propose to you and invite you to register the Fair Recruitment Hub. So at fairrecruitmenthub.org, and as a tool or a means for you to share this knowledge, and which is critical for the implementation and achievement of fair recruitment. To achieve these goals, we really need to have a collective effort. You are the experts in the room. We need to learn from each other and also ask each other the pointed questions that others can help, and to learn from each other experience and knowledge. So in the ILO, we hope that this new platform will help you engage with each other and with us across countries in the world and within Africa to really make fair recruitment happen now. So I will ask colleagues if they can put the video demo of the Knowledge Hub so that you can have a sense of what this Fair Recruitment Hub platform looks like, and really invite you all to engage and register into the platform. So please, if you can start the video.
Hello and welcome to the Knowledge Hub of the Fair Recruitment Initiative, an online space where you can find and share resources, experiences and expertise on fair recruitment. The Hub is a tool for you to engage with one another in events, public fora and bilateral discussions to promote innovative approaches and practices on fair recruitment. Be sure to take the time to explore the site, register as a member and proactively engage in sharing in this new community. Let us quickly walk you through some of its features. When you first visit the landing page of the platform, you can already explore the identified 6 thematic areas of focus for the Fair Recruitment Initiative in 2022. You will also see highlights of the latest news, resources, and events on the topic. You can click on the yellow spots or the See All button to see more. Please share with us relevant resources, tools, news, events to make this a lively and rich tool for all of us. You can also subscribe to our newsletter to keep informed about our activities. Let me then bring you back to on the tab bar on the top of the screen, where you can find out more on the Fair Recruitment Initiative and its partners. Using the tab, you can also explore the different thematic areas of focus page. Let's have a closer look at one of them, the one on labor inspection and recruitment. Here, you can learn about the subject and see dedicated news, tools, resources, events, and forums linked to the specific thematic area. From the tab bar, you can also explore and search for news and access the resource page. Let's see that. This resource library gathers a wide range of relevant reports, guides, online tools produced by a variety of actors. You can filter the resources by topic, language, and region and consult them online. You can also share your own resources, and we invite you to do so by clicking on the Submit Resource button at the top right on the resource library. Let me now show you the two most interactive features of the platform, the event page and the forum page. From the event page, you can directly access online events and search information about upcoming and past events organized under the Knowledge Hub. On the forum page, targeted thematic discussion will be organized and moderated. You can also propose a topic for a forum. To do so, you can click on Create a topic and submit your idea so we can discuss how to plan, set up, and moderate such forum. Finally, the platform has a Q&A section both on technical content-related issues and a contact page where you can reach out to us. It is very important that you register into the platform and become a member of our community by creating your account. This will allow you to access events and fora and get in contact with each other. In sum, this is a tool for all of us to use and co-create. We look forward to engage in this broader community with you.
It's an excellent video. Thank you very much to the team. So Melanie and Maria, just a few quick questions from me. I do also want to say to anyone in our online audience, if you have any questions on the back of that video, please feel free to put them in the chat. And maybe Maria, let me come to you with this first question. I would imagine that one of the big questions would be, what's the difference between this platform and the ILO website? What's the added value of the platform? You're muted, Maria.
I'm sorry. Thank you. Thank you very much, Nosy. That's a very good question. The nature and the goals of the two websites or the two platforms are very different, quite different. I would say that the most important two main differences are interactivity and multi-stakeholder nature of the Knowledge Hub. The Fair Recruitment Initiative website is a website where you can access ILO resources. The Knowledge Hub is meant as an interactive platform where stakeholder partners, participants can also share their resources and engage with one another in forum discussion and events. So I think if you have to take away two main differences, that would be the ones. And then, of course, it also allows a search engine, which allows you to get the information that is most relevant for you in a different in languages, geographic, topic, type of searching facilities.
That's excellent. Melanie, let me come to you. One of the things I saw in the video is that we can share information and resources. What kind of information are we talking about? Can we share on this platform? What type of resources are we looking to share?
Merci Nosy pour cette question. Alors le hub, pôle de
Thank you. This knowledge hub gathers various information from various partners, stakeholders. Do not hesitate to share images, reports, any contents you wish to share, which will enable the platform to also host discussion fora on specific themes and therefore improve the network of professionals and promote partnerships and synergies among members. It isn't only the place where you can download contents, but also a specific structure. The current structure of this knowledge hub identifies priorities, but you can also contribute yourself, especially concerning the recruitment, knowing that recruitment means several different issues and questions.
Thank you very much, Melanie. And I think you've also touched on, I was meaning to ask you, how can one contribute? And I think you've answered that question as well. So I think that's very good. So maybe Maria, let me come back to you. And I think one of the big things is that this is a call to action to join. as a member and to register and to sign up, the question then becomes, what are the key benefits to join as a member? Can we speak about those for a couple of seconds?
Sure. I mean, as said before, the key benefits is interactivities, is to learn from each other. As I said initially, the expertise is really lying within this audience and the audience of experts that are implementing fair recruitment practices at the national level. So it's about being part of a community. It's about being able to build a network. It's about really working together toward common goals.
Fantastic. So I love the call to action about being part of a community with common goals. Can anybody share resources and create topics? I love the fact that you could start and create topics. Is that available to anyone and everyone? Maybe Maria, let me come to you with that one.
Sure. So I mean, yes, everybody can share proposed news, resources, events, and suggest topics for the forum. This is an ILO administrative forum, so there is a moderation, of course, also with the view to avoid spams or inappropriate use of content or language. But we are, of course, here, to welcome suggestions of our partners and members of the forum in terms of resources, but also in terms of topics for discussions and for events.
Fabulous. Let me wrap it up with you, Melanie. I want to maybe just touch in around, are there any secure synergies with other online portals, other websites that are possible with this platform?
Oui, alors l'OIT va s'efforcer d'établir activement.
Yeah, the ILO will actively create links with all the stakeholders and resources and websites available. The platform will also establish links with sites and contents of other organizations to guarantee visibility of resources and the organizations and avoid any duplications. Of course, we need your help, to ensure the best participation and guarantee its longevity. Thank you so much, Nozi.
Thank you, Maria. Thank you very much. I think the call to action is there. It's really exciting to see what the Knowledge Hub has to offer. We look forward to sharing that with the audience in Abidjan again a little bit later on this afternoon. For now, I'd like to give the online community an opportunity to also take a leg stretch, take a little bit of a bio break. We're going to reconvene in 15 minutes. So if you are in Abidjan, that would be 11. If you are in South Africa, that is 1 o'clock. It's really 14 minutes from now, where we're then going to go to the official launch of the second phase of the Fair Recruitment Initiative. I'll see you shortly. We're going to pick it up once again. Mr. Mbogasi, thank you for your patience as well. I did hear you say that you do not have the results, so I won't ask for them either. What I will ask for you is to take to the floor and to proceed with your statement. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you. Thank you very much. Nozi, Madam Moderator. As the African Union Commission, we're delighted to have this opportunity and to be part of the launch of the Fair Recruitment Initiative. And on behalf of the African Union Commission, the Agenda 2063 affirms the notion that fair recruitment can happen if we leverage concerted efforts through a multi-sectoral approach to guarantee rights-based transformative actions grounded in the international labor standards based on social dialogue and ensure gender equality. We also, at the African Union, pledge to form commitment to lead the development of a fair recruitment initiative strategy for Africa and enables Africa, and that enables national, regional, and continental actors to generate knowledge, improve and enforce laws and policies, and empower workers and encourage fair business practices in the labor market. Thank you.
Statement well received, Mr. Mbogazi. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. We are going to continue our stream of statements. It's my pleasure to welcome Amadou Sakho from the IOE. I am looking at my screen. I happen to see him very quickly on my screen, so I do believe that he is in Abidjan. Mr. Sakho, are you with us?
Yes, Mosifo, I'm here.
Please go ahead, sir.
So, thank you very much. Merci beaucoup à tous. Je tiens à remercier avant tout.
Thank you very much. Allow me to thank the ILO for organizing this launch of Fair Recruitment Initiative. For the IOE, fair recruitment is a key priority. We have decided to take the lead on questions such as labor governance. As my colleague said, we want to launch a series of dialogues in the African continent to approximate governments and employers. We have realized that there is a communication gap in many African countries between employers and governments. So this initiative wants to put together, to gather together the employers and the governments, because employers are the main users and beneficiaries of labor, migrant labors. So they must be at the center of the development of migration policies for them to better respond and meet the requirements of the different labor markets. For us, the IOE, I would like to thank the ILO and all the stakeholders for participating in this initiative today. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Sakho, receiving the statement there on behalf of the IOE. I'm going to the ITUC, and we're going to hear from Mr. Joel Odigie again. Mr. Odigie, I'd like you to take the floor as we take your statement, please.
Thank you, comrade moderator. First, I will I'm not breaking from protocol because it's an exciting opportunity. I would like to congratulate Africa. We just got the news from Geneva that for the first time, the institution that is over 102 years old and counting, for the first time, has produced an African general. And I think that is a historic moment.
Yeah, I'm about to present the ID in a
Who's that?
Yeah.
My apologies. Can I kindly please ask, I think that's Peter's voice. If I can ask you, Peter, to kindly mute yourself. We can hear you in the room. Thank you very much. Mr. Odigie, if you'd like to continue, please.
Thank you. And I want to say that on the basis of this good news, I already see progress for the Fair Recruitment Initiative for Africa. More than ever before, we want to say, as working men and women in Africa, first, we want to salute the ILO for its doggedness, its steadfastness to keeping faith with the mandate it attained from 1919. 19, which is to drive social justice in the world of work. And with this initiative, we see a strong demonstration of that commitment to continue to live with that mandate. COVID-19 has really exacerbated the plight of migrant workers. And as we see currently with the war in Ukraine, migrant workers and refugees continue to be at the front line of the receiving end of what ought not to be. But much more so is that the world cannot sit back and just lament. And taking initiative to solve a problem is what institutions like the ILO are meant to do. And for this initiative, we are excited about it. We want to pledge the full commitment of working men and women in Africa to supporting it. We will do all that we can to ensure its success, so that by the time in 3-4 years' time, we begin to evaluate what we have done within the second phase. We are confident that we will be celebrating something positive going forward. On behalf of African workers, we want to join the ILO in launching this initiative, and we say congratulations. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mr. Odigier, on that statement, and of course, kicking it off with the news of the moment. Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to go to the Swiss Agency for Cooperation and Development and to call on the Deputy Head of Global Programs on Migration and Forced Development, and that is Madame Odile Roberts. She is online already, and I'd like to give you the floor, please, ma'am.
Thank you very much, Madam Moderator, and greetings to all in Abidjan and worldwide. Excellencies, colleagues, dear participants, Switzerland is very honored to participate and support the official regional launch of the Fair Recruitment Initiative in Africa, especially since we are a committed member of the Global Advisory Committee of the ILO Fair Recruitment Initiative. We collaborate with IOM, the AUC, the IOE, the ITUC, and other partners in the promotion of fair recruitment worldwide. Getting international recruitment right is essential, not only for ensuring the well-being and productivity of migrant workers, but for effectively leveraging migration for the promotion of economic development. The importance of fair and ethical recruitment has been widely acknowledged at the theoretical level. In practice, many international recruitment processes and practices are still fraught with problems. Switzerland acknowledges the enormous potential of migration and development for migrants and their families, as well as for the countries of origin and destination. The potential is, however, substantially diminished or completely obliterated if migrants are exploited, abused by recruitment agencies and employers, and not protected by the responsible governments. Ladies and gentlemen, we are committed to build a coalition of engaged cooperation partners to advance the safe labor migration agenda. Switzerland maintains a well-established and fruitful cooperation with the ILO. We are one of the pioneers and long-standing partners in fair and ethical recruitment. We are proud supporters of the Fair Recruitment Initiative and encourage its contextualization to the African continent. Switzerland also supports the implementation of programs on the ground that aim at piloting fair recruitment practices. The ILO implemented Fairway program, for instance, focuses on the labor migration corridor from Africa to the Middle East. It has been at the forefront of the ILO response to the COVID-19 crisis in the program countries, which include Ethiopia, Kenya, Morocco, Nigeria, and Uganda. Together with the AUC, the program also contributed to launch the first ever interregional tripartite dialogue between Africa and Arab states on labor migration in November last year. And as we speak about this corridor, let me give you the latest news. Yesterday, Switzerland signed a memorandum of understanding with Qatar, in which fair recruitment is mentioned as an area of cooperation. We are also partners with other UN agencies, such as the IOM. you all are aware of IRIS, I guess, which is the International Recruitment Integrity System, which is a global certification system for recruitment agencies that has been co-initiated by Switzerland and IOM, and which is aligned with ILO Fair Recruitment Initiative. Generally speaking, Switzerland aims at creating more enabling framework conditions for fair recruitment. In other words, shaping a conducive ecosystem for fair recruitment. The private sector is a crucial player in this ecosystem. It can shape the demand for an ethically recruited workforce, adapt industry standards, and improve due diligence in its supply chains. Equally important are the workers' representatives that can support labor migrants and civil society actors that stand up for their rights. We are delighted to see the active engagement of the ITUC and IOE, both trusted partners of Switzerland, in this dialogue on the implementation of the Fair Recruitment Initiative in Africa. The African continent is at the center of SDC action. Last month, we officially launched the Swiss contribution to the GLMP, the Joint Labour Migration Programme, under the leadership of the African Union. This ambitious continental programme aims at establishing conducive framework conditions, standard, and improved governance for safe labour migration on the continent. And as you know, fair recruitment is one essential element to ensure labour migration with dignity at all stages of the migration cycle. Finally, let me add that we welcome the multi-stakeholders deliberation of today. A multi-stakeholder approach is essential for advancing fair and ethical recruitment. A constructive and results-oriented exchange is in the interest of employers, recruiters, migrants, as well as countries of origin and destination. Switzerland will continue supporting this initiative on the African continent and globally in alignment with existing flagship programs, such as the GLMP I just mentioned. I am glad to see that the key actors driving the process of making international recruitment fairer and more ethical are united here today on the screen and in Abidjan. Together, we can build a new recruitment ecosystem that is at the same time more just, more effective, and more productive. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Madame Roberts, for your statement. Really coming through strongly on behalf of the Swiss Agency for Cooperation and Development. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm making my way to Abidjan, where we're going to hear from the Deputy Director for Employment Services representative in the Ministry of Labor and Employment in Nigeria, and that's Madame Gloria Ogifo, and she is standing by in Abidjan to share her statement with us. Madame, you have the floor. Madam, can you please check your microphone? We cannot hear you online.
No, thank you. Thank you, Madam Moderator. It affords me great pleasure and privilege to participate in the ILO launch of the Fair Recruitment Initiative, Phase 2, 2021 to 2025 for Africa on this day in Abidjan, Côte d'Ivoire. You will realize that in Nigeria, study shows globally that recruitment patterns are characterized with incidents of deception, nepotism, extortion, violence, forced labor, and exploitation with severe consequences on emotional and psychological health condition of victims. While in the public sector, in my country, in some instances, recruitment processes are largely based on federal character because of heterogeneous nature of the country. Labor migration and mobility are priority issues in Nigeria. Government, through the Federal Ministry of Labor and Employment, we acknowledge the unrelenting efforts of ILO and other interesting bodies who are assiduously working to ensure that fair recruitment and decent work are maintained in the world of work, both at local and international to protect workers from unfair labor activities and avoidable death of our young women and youth in general. According to Nigeria Statistics Bureau, the number of active working age in Nigeria was 116.87 million as at June 2020. And you will agree with me that the push factors are predominant, having our youth clamoring to migrate irrespective of recruitment offer they receive from destination countries. In today's global employment environment, the focus has changed, has shifted from employment as will, non-negotiable, take it or leave it attitude, to a recognition of need to see the employee as the most valuable resources and partner, without which company's objective cannot be achieved. And this, we expect our social partner, the employers, to brace up to acknowledge. ILO Fair Recruitment Initiative introduces recruitment practices at national and across borders that are grounded in labor standards and developed through social dialogue and equity. The four pillars are bench in enhancing, exchanging, and disseminating global knowledge on national and international recruitment processes, improving laws and policies and enforcement to promote fair recruitment, promoting fair business practices, and empowering and protecting workers is a laudable program which requires everyone's acceptance. In Nigeria, woman trafficking and smuggling has been a zero tolerance through awareness creation for regular migration. Regular migration is still at a low pace. However, is gradually gaining ground among our youth. The Federal Ministry of Labor, with its field offices in 36 states of the Federation, including Federal Capital Territory, regulates, monitor, and enforce rights of workers, including fundamental principles and right at work, preventing human trafficking and forced labor within the available limited resources. The objectives of these initiatives are of no doubt a paradigm shift, especially in the informal sector. It will strengthen and promote fair recruitment processes and practices in the African continent. Thank you.
Strong statement from Nigeria. That's the Deputy Director for Employment Services representative representing the Minister of Labor and Employment. Madam, thank you very, very much. Now, ladies and gentlemen, in addition to statements, there are also pledges that have come forward from a range of different partners. And so we turn our attention now to a short video that captures some of the pledges in support of this launch of the second phase of the Fair Recruitment Initiative. Please turn your attention to the screen. Ladies and gentlemen, I hope you can feel the energy in the room if you're in Abidjan, and feel the energy, of course, if you're online as well, as we leaned into those pledges and listened into the statements of support and how together we're going to be making more progress and seeing the momentum on the back of the phase 2 of the FRI, looking, of course, at that time frame of 2021 to 2025. Ladies and gentlemen, it's my absolute pleasure now to hand over the official launch on behalf of the Regional Director for Africa, on behalf of the Assistant Director General, to hand over to the Deputy Regional Director for Africa, that's Mr. Peter van Rooy, as he now officially launches this FRI for us as we look at phase 2. Peter, the floor is yours, and thank you very much for this moment.
Thank you very much, Nozifo. As always, pleasure to see and hear you and the great moderation work. Warm regards from Abidjan on behalf of the ILO Regional Director, Cynthia Samuel Olunjuwon, who had asked me to replace her. So I'm speaking on her behalf because she is now very much involved in the developments in ILO headquarters. As some of you may have heard, we have the news of the election of a new ILO Director General. So for the coming years, for the first time in ILO history, we will have an African heading the ILO work globally. Mr. Gilbert Ongbo, who is currently the head of IFAD and who is in former Deputy Director General of the ILO. So we couldn't be happier, we couldn't be more proud, and you understand also why our regional director is currently, who is in Geneva, is engaged in this. So wonderful news for our work globally, and certainly also for our work in this context. With that context of this great news of our work, where we are able to build on the excellent work that has already been taking place, and with our ambitions to take it to the next level, I'm pleased to take the floor on behalf of the regional director. Dear colleagues, having listened to the exchange of ideas and perspectives from this high-level panel with keen interest, and yesterday through the exchange of promising practices, we were informed of the progress made in Africa since the implementation of phase 1 of the Fair Recruitment Initiative. We also took note of the calls to action to promote decent work for migration for migrant workers through the achievement of fair recruitment practices in the continent. This official launch today, 25th of March, 2022, in Abidjan, Côte d'Ivoire, of the Africa Fair Recruitment Initiative, phase 2, reiterates our collective commitment to decent work as a community. I call on the African Union Commission, the regional economic commissions, the social partners, workers and employers, the national governments, technical and financial partners to all support its implementation to ensure concrete benefits for migrant workers. During the next 5 years, we will focus on expanding, deepening, and institutionalizing progress at the regional and national level. Aligned to the global framework of the Fair Recruitment Initiative, we will, in Africa, focus on the following 4 key pillars: knowledge generation and sharing, law and policies review, fair business practices, and workers' protection and empowerment. I also take this opportunity to announce with pride the launch of the ILO Global Knowledge Hub on fair recruitment, a key output under Pillar 1 of the initiative. The Knowledge Hub is a space which will convene government-to-government meetings, bipartite and tripartite exchanges at political and technical levels, enable sharing of resources in thematic areas of priorities, and allow members to engage with one another. The Hub will also serve as a vehicle to promote innovations around each of the FRI strategic pillars and ensure that the results of innovations are examined to assess and enable scale and replication. Be sure to take the time to explore the site and register as a member so that you can join upcoming events, share resources, and exchange directly with experts and peers. Ladies and gentlemen, dear partners, our commitment to achieving concrete results and foster change through the implementation of the Fair Recruitment Initiative in Africa is a step towards implementing the ILO's 2019 Abidjan Declaration on Advancing Social Justice, shaping the future of work in Africa, realizing the potential for a future of work with social justice, which identifies the need for strengthening the efficiency of the institutions of work to ensure adequate protection of all workers through, inter alia, promoting fair and effective labor migration governance. The Fair Recruitment Initiative framework offers a comprehensive platform to achieve fair recruitment benefits. My call to action to achieve such benefits is translated into 3 words: innovation, coordination, and action. Innovation, because we need to go beyond our comfort zone and challenge our ways of doing business. Tapping into unexplored and innovative ways to approach solutions to the challenges identified. A radical change of mindset. An approach is therefore required to build efficient and sustainable recruitment models, piloted and evaluated, with lessons shared openly and widely. 2, effective coordination, because making fair recruitment a reality requires a multidisciplinary approach, partnership, and social dialogue. This is critical to promoting and implementing pertinent and effective policies, initiatives, and practices. And 3rd, action. Because the commitment to Fair Recruitment Initiative comes with the urge to go from rhetoric to concrete actions on the ground and to accelerate change. The focus in Africa should therefore be on practical implementation on the ground, learning from practitioners' actions and challenges, adapting and replicating successful models and innovative solutions. The need for fair recruitment within the framework of efficient labor migration governance is a fact. We must now move from paper-based policies and intentions to make fair recruitment a reality in Africa. Achieving that requires the commitment of financial resources, technical knowledge, and political will, including through the private sector, government's commitments, as well as the developing and piloting of innovative, gender-sensitive products and services, and a combination of domestic regulations and international frameworks. How about you? Let us challenge ourselves to reflect on our concrete contribution to building a better future for migrant workers in Africa. The ILO commits to its continued assistance to its constituents by effectively using the normative framework, deploying our innovative tools, and providing technical assistance. The ILO also commits to making its technical and other assets available to the AUC, the tripartite community, and partners present here to support the formulation of a regional strategy on fair recruitment in Africa. This should be developed through a consultative, inclusive process embedded in the well-established tradition of social dialogue. The development of a regional strategy under the leadership of the AUC is crucial to drive the various forces towards a unique objective, which is to make sure that all migrant workers within and outside Africa, as they embark in their quest for better working conditions through their migration journey, do it willingly, at no cost to them, and supported through a protection mechanism that is transparent, endorsed by all stakeholders, and through coordinated actions. We also need to level the playing field for those employers and recruiters that are abiding by international standards to promote their business models and professionalize their industry to ensure that fair recruitment becomes the norm, not the exception. Let's keep this commitment high in our agenda. We owe it to the people we serve in Africa. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Peter van Roy, the Deputy Regional Director for Africa. We owe it to the people we serve in Africa. I did see a round of applause in the room in Abidjan, Peter, and so we're leaning on that energy, and we just want to thank you for that energy, and thank you very much on a momentous occasion for us to also be launching the second phase of the FRI. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to build on this energy that we've created. And we're going to take a pause now and take time to go and have some lunch and maybe to connect around the news of the moment. And I'm seeing lots of congratulations coming in for Mr. Gilbert Humbo, of course, the new Director General of the ILO. So in the room in Abidjan, I'm going to take the liberty of allowing us to break now at 11:45. And to ask you to be back in the room promptly 2 hours from now, which is 13:45 or 1:45. So you still get a 2-hour lunch, except that we are taking the lunch break 15 minutes earlier than anticipated. And the same goes for our online community. We will rejoin as well at 13:45. I know that in Abidjan at this moment, there might be group pictures that are going to be taken, as well as interviews that have been organized. My colleague Aida, I can see that she's on her feet, and so she will be giving a few more directions and instructions for the group pictures as well as for those interviews. For now, we'll see you back at in about 2 hours. Our online participants will be able, of course, to watch the live streaming from Abidjan when we commence at 13:45. Thank you very much. And we'll take our break now.
Thank you, Nosy. I would like to thank Melanie and also Maria for this wonderful platform that they have developed. My question will be, as you said, there will be a resource sharing platform with different experts. And also there will be a relative information and data that will be produced by individuals to be shared on those platforms with members. So my question will be how credible it is should be checked before this information is disseminated to the whole world. So in doing that, who will be counter checking those information are really truthful and credible before being disseminated to all the members in that forum? So could you reflect on that one? Thank you, Nozi.
It's an excellent question. It's an excellent question. Maria is nodding, so I know she's probably ready to take it on. So who is going to check the credibility of the resources that are uploaded? Maria, an opportunity to respond, please.
Thank you. Yes, thank you very much. This is a very good question. And of course, you know, when one set up an interactive multi-stakeholder platform, this is, I think, one of the key questions to address. I mean, as I said, the ILO is moderating the knowledge hub. The ILO is also has set up an advisory committee for the Fair Recruitment Initiative, which is composed by different government representatives as well as ITUC and IOE. When it comes, as I said, you know, when it comes to submission of resources and you know, news, as far as you know, members indeed can submit those resources, the ILO will act as an administrator, you know, and also I think that is, you know, as a secretariat of the app, you know, it will be on us, if you wish, to check the credibility of the resources that are shared. I mean, at the same time, we hope to have it as open as possible, you know, to credible or to, you know, relevant organization to share their resources. So we will act somehow as a, you know, quality check, but we don't also want to be censoring, if you wish. You know, as I said, there is a difference between the ILO website, where we share ILO generated resources, and a hub where the intention is to leave more space specifically to constituents and other relevant institutions to share their resources. I hope this addresses your points.
Well made, Maria, to say certainly the fact checking and the credibility, but not censoring. And I think that's a very important distinction that you've made there. Ida, let me come back to you in the room once again. Let me check in with you. Are there any more hands before we move on?
Colleagues, the floor is open. Any more questions? Maria and Melanie? I guess it's crystal clear. There's no questions.
Fantastic. Thanks, Ida. I can hear a pin drop all the way here in Johannesburg. So it certainly is crystal clear. A very big thank you to you, Maria. A big thank you to you, Melanie, for all the hard work that has gone in. And of course, a call to action, a massive encouragement to all members to register, to be a part of the Knowledge Hub, to share and to contribute actively. Ladies and gentlemen, we're moving now into our fireside chat with Mr. Sabelo Mbogazi. I believe he's still with us in Abidjan. And this is a conversation where I don't intend to just keep him to myself. I really would like to open up the space and invite your voice so that you too could engage directly in this conversation. So I'm going to maybe kick off with 3 or 4 questions of my own just to get us going. And thereafter, I will rely on Ida in the room to give me direction of who would like to contribute. Might I kindly ask, just for the benefit of some of us online, that those who will be contributing by asking questions or making comments, if they can kindly please just introduce themselves so that we have the context of the person asking the question. Mr. Mbogazi, I hope you can hear me clearly. I want to maybe start off where we ended. In the last, when we were in the panel discussion, I ended up by asking you to share what are your 3 priorities, or what are the 3 priorities that you believe that we need to focus on in order to make progress when it comes to fair recruitment on the continent. And if I run the risk of misquoting you, but you said, in order for us to really leverage fair recruitment to integrate the continent, we need to make sure we're getting ratification, implementation, and enforcement. You said that we need to make sure that we improve the protection of migrant workers and we improve regulations in the labor market. And then you said we need to focus on sustainability while we're doing that. And so I maybe want to just give you an opportunity to unpack these a little bit more. I had put you in a corner and asked you to give me 3 words or 3 phrases. And now I'd like you to maybe just speak to a little bit more to those priorities and give us some more depth.
Thank you very much, Nosy, for this opportunity, and the colleagues. Indeed, those are the 3 points that we mentioned and we thought are priorities, because we recognize that there is enough policies, regulations, and there's enough standards and norms as these have been set by ILO, and AU also has added. And AU, first of all, recognizes the importance of fair recruitment and the role that it plays on the employment and working conditions of migrants. You will find this emphasized in the revised migration policy framework for Africa, which is a policy framework that spans up to 2030. Nosy, you have asked me to expand. So in expanding on this point, we would like to recall that the migration policy framework has about 9 thematic areas, which also address labor migration. And therefore, AAC and AU would like to urge member states to act within 2 levels in terms of the prioritizing what we need to do, what needs to be done, and the next step. Prioritizing governance of labor migration at a national level, but we are also providing support to the regional level. Number 2, at an operational level, it's very important. That's where then we can talk about the protection of migrants. But then at a governance level, that's where we would like to encourage the ratification of the existing protocols. Free movement protocol, we have 4 countries that have ratified, and we still have a long way for this to come to force. We have the AfCFTA, and to operationalize and to reap the benefits and all the potential that CFTA provides, we need to ratify the free movement protocol. CFTA talks about the movement, has got about 4 pillars: the movement of capital, the movement of goods, the movement of services. But the 4th one is important. It talks about the movement of persons. So unless we ratify the free movement protocol, we may not be able to reap the rewards that are potential and that come with AfCFTA. So we'd like to re-emphasize that implementation and enforcement would really be important going forward, and also in the context of in the context of fair recruitment. Nosy.
Of really bringing focus to the governance, to the operational elements. And maybe I want to get into the role of other stakeholders, whilst recognizing the leadership of the AUC. Who are what are the other key stakeholders that we need to be thinking about, who are going to be critical in championing this fair recruitment initiative in Africa, and what role can we expect them to play?
Thank you. Nozi, we already have a good and a working and a global platform that has already been set. A platform that ILO has recognized, but also a platform that AU has recognized as we speak. We have a biannual ministerial where the ministers of labor and employment and the ministers of social development come together, and they come together to discuss and provide strategic direction on issues to do with labor and employment and labor migration. And we believe that there is a political will, and therefore governance should be on board, but also trade unions should be on board, but also business sector should also be in board, and all of us should be able to work together to be able to implement fair recruitment, all the norms and standards, but also to be able to deal and to address the challenges that comes with employment where there is exploitation, but also we have to close the net to the unscrupulous operators. This is what the government should help all of us, but also to help the vulnerable workers by enforcing the laws and the standards. Nozi.
Mr. Mbogazi, that's very consistent with some of the earlier contributions that we heard. We heard, I think it might have been Mr. Joel Odigie speaking about the importance of putting tripartism back at the center, make sure that it's at the center of this recruitment initiative. But we also heard that I think it was Madame Stephanie Vinet talking about making sure that businesses in the room alongside government, and of course the trade unions are in the room when the policies are being formulated and the action plans are being rolled out. One of the things you've spoken about is that you've said we've got enough policies. You said we've got enough norms, we've got enough standards. I want to add one more thing, and that is we can also have enough launches. I want us to talk a little bit about what happens beyond the launch. What is the roadmap we should be thinking about to ensure that this really translates into a regional strategy on FRI that works for the continent?
Thank you very much, Nozi. Yes, we'd like to mention just the few steps that we can possibly take beyond this launch. And AU would like to once again reiterate its commitment to push towards the achievement of the proposals that are contained in the Fair Recruitment Initiative strategy. We believe that we should put in place the right policies and legislation at a national, regional, and at a bilateral level. We believe that it is important to ensure the enforcement and that correct sanctions are applied to those who do not abide by the policies and laws that are put in place. We believe that there is a need of encouraging the growth of fair recruiters and law-abiding businesses through professionalism of the industry. And we believe it is important to ensure that workers have access to functioning and effective complaints mechanism to ensure appropriate outcomes when things go wrong. Yesterday, we spoke at length about access to justice. And therefore, we believe that if we put systems in place where those who are victims can have a recourse, it will be important as the next step. Finally, while this is not maybe specific to the recruitment process, but we think it is important in the context of labor migration process. So we believe that workers should be able to report and raise complaints against employers and recruitment agencies, and to have access to remedies for these complaints without fear of reprisal and expulsion from the country of destination. And therefore, colleagues, we believe that as countries are concluding bilateral agreements with destination countries, this should be incorporated as one of the key provisions in the bilateral agreements, all for the protection of the vulnerable labor migrants. Nozi.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mbogazi, for bringing back into focus the bilateral agreements. I know that Mr. Joel Odigye spoke quite a lot about them and talking about some of the complexities around them being demand-driven and the supplying countries almost feeling that they're on the back foot. And so the invitation to you, from you, to engage more proactively and to put the worker at the center is what I'm hearing and taking away from your message. Now, ladies and gentlemen, before I get to Mr. Mbogazi just to give us his final words and maybe his call for action, let's open up the conversation a little bit. Let's get a sense if anybody in the room would like to pose a question, anybody in the room would like to make a comment. The brief that I've been given is that Mr. Mbogazi is looking forward to engage. He's open to the engagement and is wanting to be in conversation with all of us. So Ida, let me check in with you. Do we have any hands in the room that are indicating that they'd like to ask a question or make a comment?
Yes, Nozi. We have Joel from ITUC. Joel, you have the floor.
Yeah, thanks. I think in recent time, the African Union has really taken on labor migration work, migration and labor migration engagement very positively. And we from non-state actors can really commend them. However, at the level of member states, what seems to be happening at this moment is more secretariat-driven, commission-driven. We don't see member states pulling the same weight. So my question, which is also a suggestion, would be to Comrade Sabelo, what kind of approach or strategy do we have to begin to get member states that will stand as champions on these issues? Because the idea would be when we see champions at the forefront pushing for this, there is opportunity for inspiration to then recruit more. I use the example quickly of Rwanda, for instance. Benin Republic on a visa issue for Africa. Benin Republic told us that they were inspired by Rwanda on its visa procedure. And the Benin Republic went a notch even further than Rwanda by eliminating visa entirely for persons bearing African passports. And as we see today, open visa situation is not a security issue. Benin Republic has not been invaded by Africans and stuff like that. And Benin is benefiting from that approach. So we want to see champions, African champions on this initiative. So what kind of strategy is the African Union thinking to drive in this? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Joel Odigye. Mr. Mbogazi, I'm going to try maybe paraphrase that as a bit more direct of a question. What do we need to consider in a strategy of country champions so as to build momentum and get more buy-in from the continent?
Thank you very much, Nozi. The Global Fair Recruitment Initiative strategy provides us with a workable framework based on 4 pillars. But the question that is asked by our brother there, Joel, we could consider it as a best practice, and that AU has a capacity and capability to be able to document best practices and see how to replicate this in other regions, in other member states. So we have also established a platform or an architecture that is called Labor Migration Advisory Council, which also subscribe to the tripartite arrangement. And therefore, we believe that this tripartite arrangement of the Labor Migration Advisory Council of the African Union can do more in terms of identifying across the continent some of the good practices. Then we can be able to capture those and replicate them. But I'm sure all of us in this room are aware about the ambitious labor migration program, the joint labor migration program, which also is a good example of what we can do together as African Union, but together with partners to be able to advance migration governance in Africa. Thank you. So maybe I just want to add that we can enhance working together, enhancing exchange and dissemination of global knowledge, as I've indicated, the best practices on national and international recruitment processes, as also as one of the examples to be able to advance fair recruitment initiative strategy.
Thank you very much. Thank you for the question, Mr. Joel Didier, and the response. And it's encouraging to hear that that architecture already exists and the mandate is being held within that architecture of the council, and the relevant questions are being asked. But I really was inspired by the question of, how do we create momentum and get others to be inspired in the process? Aida, let me come back to Abidjan. Let me ask you to confirm for me if you're seeing any more hands, contributions, comments, questions.
Yes, so we do have a few more hands. Maybe we'll start with my brother there. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. My name is Kennedy Achakuma from Ghana, and representing Atumnet and the ITUC Africa. My question comes back to our comrade. I'm just wondering how the AU can get countries to be dedicated to converting mechanisms or policies into real action, because we always have lack of commitment by individual countries. I think that the road to greatness begins with a tiny space, and that tiny space has to do with the individual countries and stakeholders being committed to really working and promoting fair recruitment to better the lives of migrants. That's my question. Beyond that, I think that collectively, we need to take the advocacy to a different level, to a global level, so that we can have the adequate momentum behind our initiatives to push for drastic changes. We can learn from other regions what they are doing that we are not doing, and they are making success, and that could push the agenda forward. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Kennedy. Aida, let's take maybe another 2 questions, and so let's take it as a batch of 3 before we go back to Mr. Mbogazi. Can we identify 2 more hands, please?
Sure. Okay. I'll give the floor to Mr. Honwart from Côte d'Ivoire. Please introduce yourself when you take the floor.
Merci. Je suis Tano Honorable.
Thank you. My name is Tano Honorable. My question focal point in Côte d'Ivoire, and also a member of the Workers' Network. My concern has not been addressed over the my concern has not been addressed yet over the last 2 years, because one of the challenges, can you hear now? Can you hear now? One of the issue is recognition of skills, or even the harmonization of a skills policy. We've got two opposite systems in Africa, the Francophone system and the Anglophone one. We believe that the African Union, it is in the interest of the African Union to streamline and harmonize the number of guidelines that will provide some guidelines to the government so that they adopt a minimum of guidelines in order for the employers to be on the same page as far as recruitment is concerned. I consider it a challenge for Africa to be harmonized and to be able to define a number of common guidelines to ensure fair recruitment of workers. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you very much, sir. The recognition of skills as a challenge, the poor harmonization of skill policies, and of course, lifting the reality of a Francophone and Anglophone approaches and what that looks like, the impact of that on the ground. I'm told there are two more hands in the room, so I'm going to take both hands, Mr. Mbokazi, if that's okay, and then we'll just take your response to all four questions in one go. Aida, if you could please lead me to the next hand.
Okay, thanks, Nozi. I'll hand over to Tokasahun from the Ethiopian Confederation of Ethiopian Trade Union. Over to you.
Yes, thank you very much, moderator. Let me take this opportunity to thank the regional office and the headquarters for facilitating this wonderful meeting and the historical meeting, because we heard the news. We heard.
Please continue, sir.
For the first time, the Black African elected to lead ILO. So I congratulate all African citizens. Then my question is goes to AU representative. My colleague question, one of the question is not touched by the AU representative, that is exemption of visa between African countries. So he didn't respond on this. Then just I need some response from AU representative. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. The exemption of visas between African countries, a response still pending. Thank you very much. Let's go to the final hand, please, in the room, Aida.
Thank you. All right, I'll hand over to Maselit from the Ministry of Labor and Skills of Ethiopia.
Thank you very much for organizing such kind of workshops and to gather the ideas and focusing on fair recruitment and to decrease the abuse of migrant workers. And also, when we say to decrease or to work on the fair recruitment, the government, trade unions, and also employers should work together. And also, we have to see that the migrant workers should have awareness raising on this one, and they should be the part of the government or part of this one too, not to pay the recruitment fees. So by saying this one, I want to ask from AU, for which was given a good idea. AU is working on different issues of migration issues. So to control and to follow up the implementation of this fair recruitment and other migration problems? What is the strategy that was driven from AU? Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Madam. Mr. Mbogazi, I'm going to hand over the floor to you. Some really, really good questions around, how do we get more countries to take the guidance and turn it into real action? How do we take advocacy to the next level? What are your thoughts on the recognition of skills and the harmonizations of skills policy? What are your thoughts on the exemption of visas? And this final question that's come from Ethiopia. So let me give you the floor as you maybe just respond to those key questions.
Thank you, Nosy. First of all, let me start by recognizing a very rich contribution that was made by the member states that are here represented yesterday, but also as they continue to contribute today. When the member states were making presentations about the norms, the standards, making presentations about the regulations that they have in the member states and about the laws, we were all encouraged that we are really making progress. And therefore, we are encouraged that the member states are receiving the message, but the member states are also coming up with progressive laws that would encourage fair recruitment. Having said that, we know that the COVID-19 also came in, and it really took us back in terms of the gains that we've had in the labor migration governance. The unemployment rates went up, and therefore, what did that lead to? That led to a desperate situations among our people. And when people are desperate, people thought because there is COVID-19, we are going to stop seeing a number of Africans who wants to cross desperately the seas to go abroad. But we saw the numbers going up. It's because people are desperate. And therefore, these questions that colleagues are raising here are quite a pertinent question, because the situation in Africa has been exacerbated. The situation of the job market and labor market has been exacerbated by the conditions that were induced by COVID-19. Coming back to the harmonization of skills and recognition of skills in Africa, this is an elephant in the room. There is a framework that AU has developed on recognition and harmonization of skills, but we're yet to see the implementation at a national level. Unless this is done, we will also still be behind, and we will not be able to attain integration. We will not be an integrated continent that we aspire to be. And therefore, I think this is quite an important statement or question that has been raised to say, if we want to see a fair recruitment, we also have to talk about the harmonization of skills. That will lead to an easy portability of skills intra-Africa. There is a very interesting question about easing of visa restriction and visa and relaxation of laws around visa. Definitely, this is one of the topic that is discussed, but it is also a topic that is enshrined in the protocol on free movement. And therefore, we believe that the free movement protocol is an important protocol because it will lead also to easing of visa. Earlier on, we made reference to to the benefits that that come with CFTA, and visa issues is one of the issues that needs to be addressed for us to see the full benefits and the potential of CFTA. There is a question about what the AU can do to push for follow-up on the implementation of the strategy on fair recruitment. AU has a number of platforms. Biannually, when we convene the ministers, that could be a platform. That could be a platform where member states are expected to report on how they are doing on fair recruitment policies, and therefore we are presenting it to you. That is a platform, but that is intra-Africa. We know that labor migration, it's not only a continental issue, but it's a global issue. And therefore, we have a platform that is called C2C, continent to continent, that I made reference to earlier on. We have a platform, AU and Arab states, a platform. We are now establishing AU, a fully fledged AU and GCC member states dialogue. All this platform will assist for us to be able to harmonize the standards and norms around, and to emphasize the enforcement of fair recruitment procedures and processes. Thank you, Nozi.
Mr. Mbogazi, thank you very much. I think it's an excellent job of covering all the issues and all the questions. We've come to the tail end of our fireside chat, and I know this is just the beginning of a robust conversation that will continue. But maybe let me give you an opportunity just to, in a few sentences, what is the call to action that you want to leave in the room? What is the key message that you'd like to leave with everybody in the room?
We once again would like to have a strong conviction that fair recruitment can happen if we come together through a multi-sectoral initiative, which is something we already have achieved. The tripartite arrangement can be able to assist us. We believe that we also want to pledge as the AUC, the pledge to develop fair recruitment initiative strategy for Africa, that to provide the support that will enable the national and regional and continental actors to generate knowledge. So that is action on our part, and to improve and to enforce laws and policies to empower workers and to encourage fair business practices in Africa. Nozi.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mbogazi. Ladies and gentlemen, that concludes our fireside chat, a robust exchange, taking on the questions, tackling the issues, addressing some of the anxieties. And that really brings us to the tail end of our time together today. It's been an incredible day, but we have one more voice in the room. That is, of course, the ILO director in the Abidjan office, Mr. Frederick Lapierre, who is in the room. And I'd like to turn the floor over to him and give him an opportunity to share his closing remarks with us.
Thank you so much, Nozi. Thank you, Aida. Dear Excellencies, dear constituents, dear partners, dear participants and e-participants who are connected to those 2 days, during those 2 days. It's a very special day today because you are launching this very important fair recruitment initiative for Africa. It's also a very special day for the ILO because, as you know now, we have the governing body of the ILO has elected the new DG, and he's from Africa. And we are very proud that we have somebody from Africa as the new DG of the ILO. It's the first time for the 100 years of the existence of the ILO. So let me say that I'm very pleased and honored to do the closing remarks for this very important event. I would like to thank all of you for participating to this launching of the Fair Recruitment Initiative for Africa. It's very important. We are honored to have partnered with the African Union, with ITUC, with IOE to make this happen.
and very proud that we have been joined by Her Excellency, Madame la Ministre du Travail de Madagascar, and Madame la Ministre d'Éthiopie, du Travail d'Éthiopie. I would like also to thank all the senior officials from ministries of labor who are here today, or who are connected, but also all employers and workers organization representative and all regional economic communities organization who are also connected or here in the room. We thank our development partners, SDC, SIDA, FCDO, and the EU for supporting us on this journey. It's a long journey, a challenging journey, but they are with us, and we will be successful all together. We are glad to have been able to gather in person in Abidjan, while being joined by hundreds of participants following the event online. Having spent 2 full days together, we have clearly heard one another's call to action, making recruitment processes fairer within, to, and from Africa. It is an urgent challenge that needs to be addressed to protect our migrant workers, to transparently and efficiently monitor and regulate recruitment, and to make labor markets function efficiently. We have also heard that our vision of fair recruitment is possible, and that's very important because it comes out from those 2 days, and that a great number of governments, constituents, and private entities have taken it upon themselves to pilot new and innovative approaches and practical action that can be replicated elsewhere in the region. And we also welcome your interest and commitment to share your experiences and exchange good practices in the Fair Recruitment Initiative Knowledge Hub we have discussed just before, and be part of a community of policymakers, experts, and practitioners committed to make fair recruitment a reality now for Africa. ILO looks forward to strengthening our partnership in this region and launching the Fair Recruitment Initiative strategy for Africa together with the African Union. All participants in the room and those participating online have clearly expressed their priorities of what needs to change in Africa. And we can pick up some few priorities: broader ratification of relevant ILO standards, such as Convention 181, 189, 190, 97, and 143. The need also to strengthen practices and institutions of social dialogue to discuss those issues of fair recruitment in Africa, better regulation of recruitment processes and enforcement mechanism, collection and sharing of accurate statistics and administrative data on labor migration, share knowledge, lessons learned, and new approaches to fair recruitment across the region, build the capacity of all on fair recruitment, from migrant workers to social partners to government officials, and finally, to ensure that labor markets actors contribute to policy discussion, ensure that social dialogue structures are reinforced and improved. That's very important for efficient policy making. Partners, ladies and gentlemen, excellencies, the pledges that you have submitted are inspiring. We are encouraged that so many of you have taken up the call for action to show leadership on fair recruitment in Africa, and to be champions at the regional and global level for pushing our agenda and joint vision forward. As mentioned earlier today, the UN General Assembly is conducting an international migration review forum in May to review progress against the Global Compact on Migration. Countries have been asked to pledge. We will call on countries to pledge commitment to ILO's Fair Recruitment Initiative. The ILO Regional Director has called on us to be innovative, to be coordinated, and to take action, concrete action. We welcome the commitment by the African Union to formulate a regional strategy on fair recruitment, and ILO will be a committed partner to support its formulation and development. We are pleased to stand by you to provide technical assistance, tools, and space to come together to accelerate change in the region. Ladies and gentlemen, excellencies, We thank you for working together with us over the past 2 days. As we live here and travel back home, let us continue our work and keep these commitments high in our agenda because it's a key challenge for Africa. And let me finish my closing remarks by acknowledging the very good work of all the ILO team in Africa, in the region, in the HQ, in the country office Abidjan to make this special event possible. And yes, I think we can applaud them. Thank you to Aida. And thank you also for Kumba. As you know, Kumba, she wanted to be with us. She has invested so much time to make it possible and successful. She had the bad news that her son had needed a surgery yesterday afternoon. He had surgery during the night. I was in contact with her late in the night and this morning. Her son is fine. And she says it's a big relief for her. But I think we should applaud her also for all the good work. By those closing remarks, I would like to thank you, all of you, once again, and to wish you un bon voyage de retour et à bientôt.
Merci beaucoup. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. And that, of course, was Mr. Lepere closing us off. That's the end of our proceedings for today. Thank you very much for your time. And it is goodbye from all of us and the team.